Welcome to episode 98 of the Nerd Social Club podcast. Ped Aaron. And yes, we are joined this week by a special guest. It is Austin from the Trash Talk podcast.
For having me on, guys.
Austin, just tell us a little bit about your podcast before we get into stuff.
Sure. I'm a part of Trash Talk Podcast. We also talk about movies and TV shows and comic books and stuff like that. Also, we dip into video games too. So we have a couple drinks and we just talk about different stuff. But we usually have a main theme every week. We have a comic book of the week and a game of the week, no matter what topic we're talking about. So we're a good podcast to go to for some laughs, but also for some good recommendations on movies, TV shows, and we always have a comic book of the week and a game of the week. So yeah, that's Trash Talk Podcasts.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. This is a really important question. This might define our relationship for the rest of our days.
No pressure. No pressure.
Are those games played on Xbox or are they played on PlayStation?
Oh well,
Murky waters. These are murky waters.
This is
recently I've been playing more of the Switch, but
Okay,
between PlayStation and Xbox, I've been getting more into Xbox.
Okay, you had me at Switch. You lost me at Xbox.
I lost you at
You
Xbox.
lost me
That's
at like Switch. Switch is like Switzerland. It's fine. Everyone likes it. It does nice chocolate and watches if you can afford them. But Xbox is the devil. It is.
I was rooting for you, Austin. I was like, come on, say what he wants to
full
say.
of the devil. In fact, it is. In fact, I believe from next year, Xbox will be injecting you with microchips and giving you 5G signals to the brain. That's how strongly I feel about Xbox. But fair. I mean, listen, if you want to lower yourself to a lesser caliber gaming platform, then that's up to you. That's up to you. Kids still like going out in the street and playing with sticks, I believe. So it's the same kind of thing.
Well, hold on. Let's reverse the question back.
Yeah.
Have you managed to land a PS5 yet?
I haven't. No, I'll be honest, I haven't. But I haven't even tried that hard either, though, because there aren't any games for it. So it's a moot point. I mean, there's no games for the PS5. So I've actually literally.
Well, I was going to say, do you know what? Funnily enough, today I saw that the PS5 has outsold the PS4.
Yeah, by like 5 million units.
Really?
And there's no games on it?
Because people have class.
What do you play on the PS5?
I don't really know because I haven't got one, but I think at the moment they're just really, really nice decorative units for the house. They look really, really.
They do look nice.
Yeah, they look really nice. No, do you know what?
Lord of the Rings memorabilia, the Eye of Sauron.
I bit the bullet. I was like, PS4, can I be bothered getting anything? And then I bought Assassin's Creed Origins, which is like 4 years old, but I paid like £15 for it off Amazon, and I've been playing that for the last like month, and it is a fantastic game because I was getting told to buy Valhalla, and I was like, I can't really be bothered dropping £50 on Valhalla, and wasn't really sure of Assassin's Creed because the original versions, I just felt like you run around loads and didn't actually do anything, and it was all very similar. So I thought, right, I'll buy this new version of it, this new sort of like default version of it, like a rebooted version, and it's fantastic and actually ties in with the movie as well. From like I think it was from the same year, I think as well. Yeah, there's
Michael Fassbender one.
There's
the Fassbender one.
So basically, because in the game, you play as like an assassin, but it's based on like in the movie, so it's like tied into DNA in the future and all that. Yeah, all that stuff. And you are emailing the woman who is in the movie. That I mean, I know it's a very tenuous link, but at least there's a link in there. So they did try and link the games with the movie, but yeah, it was fantastic, and it actually showed you the origins of Assassin's Creed. How it started, and I think there's Odyssey, and then there's Valhalla. So I'll probably go on to them as well. But it's like one of those things I haven't got because I haven't got a PS5. I'm like, shall I wait till I get a PS5? But then if you buy it and download it, you can take it over with you to the PS5. But so what's the most recent game you've played?
The most recent games I've been playing are mostly like indie games on Switch.
Okay.
I was kind of getting tired of like the AAA games on Xbox.
Yeah.
And also the Xbox is kind of a pain in the ass
Yeah, I'd get
sometimes.
pretty tired of the Xbox pretty quickly.
Fair enough. So I've been mostly just playing Switch games. So like Moonlighter, Celeste, Treasure Knight, games like that. I'm beginning to Smash a little bit.
Okay. Have you played? Have you? I don't know if you've either played these games. But have you played a game? If you want to talk about indie games, two of my favorites are Firewatch, which is an absolutely incredible game, and there's one called Journey as well, which I don't know if it's just on PS, but it's literally this like 4 hour game where you are like this floating wispy character on an alien planet, and there's all this amazing music, and you have to like make music in the game. You have to complete so many of these like little trials, and you're hitting these notes. And it's probably the most spiritual thing I've ever done in my life is playing this game. It felt like a spiritual like journey. It was incredible at the end. I felt like having a really good cry. It was honest to God, it was absolutely amazing. It was free on like the PS Plus store, and I downloaded it. Honestly, I played them for 3-4 hours. It's absolutely incredible, and I love that's what indie games can do. They can just do what they want essentially, and they end up being fantastic, and also can be very short as well. Don't rely on that, $50, $60, $70 markup that they have to hit every time. So there are some absolute wonderful games out there if you can get away from the big titles.
I was gonna say, you were talking about Firewatch. What was it? 2 weeks ago, I think, when that one trailer from HBO came out. So I know you spoke very highly of that one.
Oh, Firewatch.
And was that a PlayStation one as well?
Yeah, I think Firewatch is on all platforms. It's an absolutely incredible game. It looks beautiful. The game is just a slow sort of build up to like it's that cutesy at the beginning, and then it goes all dark and tense, and because you're in a fire tower and people are setting off fires, and you have to discover this like little mystery, and don't get me wrong, it's not like a heavy game, but it's a story based game, it's a text based game, and you just when you get into it, you just get lost into it, and it looks amazing. So you just find yourself just walking around because it looks so good. So there's a lot of those kind of games out there which are really, really good. They're just not on the Xbox, sadly.
Boo.
It's true.
But you've got a Switch, haven't you, Aaron?
I do. But I don't. We don't have any indie games. I've got all the bigger games on the Switch for the kids. So just been playing Animal Crossing, and I'm trying to think of the other ones. We've got some Mario games and stuff like that. It's just the family games that the kids would like. So I am tempted to get the Zelda Breath of the Wild, though. I heard that's very good.
Good. It's great. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've heard that's really. I'm a sucker for a good Zelda game. They're always good.
I've never ever played a Zelda game in my life.
Really? Not even the one on the 64, the Ocarina of Time?
Listen, 64. I had an original Nintendo. I had a NES. I had a Super Nintendo. 64, God.
Oh, I say Ocarina of Time on the 64 just because it was an amazing game. It was fantastic. I devoted a lot of time into completing that one, but
I never got into it. I remember the Mario cartoon when I was a kid, and there was like a little Castlevania bit in it and a little Link bit in it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix over here.
Yeah, I never ever got into the game.
Hey, paisano!
I just don't know what. I just think it was because it was just like it felt like there's too much like walking about, where I like just wanted to get into like fighting or whatever it was at the time. Or so yeah, no, I've never played one. I've never really had any interest in playing one. So, but I understand why people do like them. So
yeah. Breath of the Wild was actually my first Zelda game. I never played any Zelda games before it, but I've been able to jump into it, and there is a lot of walking. It's like a Lord of the Rings movie. It's just like pretty landscapes, but just walking around. But there is some combat, and it's pretty challenging.
To be fair, it does look a little bit like Firewatch in a way, and a little bit like Journey as well. The graphics are quite similar to, especially Journey. Just like it is quite cartoony, but at the higher level, at the high, like real high level sort of cartoony stuff. So it does look good. I know there's a sequel coming out for it as well, and people just absolutely love that stuff. So, and Switch is just a very unique platform, and it's really good that I've always dipped my toe back in. I remember when I first discovered like eBay, and I went on and bought like a GameCube just to play
Yeah.
Rogue Squadron, and it was just it's
so good.
Nintendo positions itself so well. It's sort of like just to the left of, or just to the right of like the big two, and like you just said, Aaron, it introduces families into gaming as well. And I had like a Wii as well, and all the stuff that went with that, you know, playing the tennis and all that. It was fantastic for that little time. It was, you know, before the novelty wore out, and it's a really good introduction to gaming. But I think now it's the Switch. It's taken it up a level as well. So they are really. I almost feel like it's like you would have a Nintendo or an Xbox in your house, but you'd also have a Switch as well. Like, you wouldn't have I don't think you would have an Xbox and a PlayStation, but no. You would have one or the other and have a Switch as well, because they just
and that's the nice thing with Nintendo as well, because it's not only you can just get like a main Switch, but you can get the Switch Lite, which is basically like the Game Boy or the Switch out of the console. So I mean, for $100 less, you get a decent little console that you can carry around with you and plays the same level of games. And the screen quality, like, it's pretty big, and it's a decent quality to see off of and play games. So Nintendo's done well there. Because like even like one of the games my kids are dead into at the moment is Plants vs Zombies, and it's essentially like Call of Duty, but with like a cartoonish version of these, like this Plants vs, and it's fun. Like they like it, but it's without any of like the overkill on like the violence or the graphics or anything like that. So, but it works for them. They think it's silly, and they like it, and they get involved, and they're working on those like the dual joystick, hand-eye coordination of like as far as like strafing and turning, looking up and down and that. So
it's educational.
Absolutely, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Killing zombies will be needed at some point in the future. It will be an essential part of any school curriculum. Killing zombies. I can't think of anything else that will be that useful coming up to the.
I figure it's good dexterity for when they have to start flying drones everywhere. Like from the bunkers, flying drones and killing zombies. I mean, like that, they're going to need to do the same thing. So I'm just preparing them for the future.
See, they haven't.
I'm protecting our lives when we're old age pensioners.
They haven't factored in drones into zombie films yet, have they? Because drones would be just a massive game changer in zombie films. It's all hand-to-hand combat, and I feel like that's a little bit stupid. Just get the drones involved.
Just go and raid the Best Buy and get all the drones.
Have you guys seen that Zack Snyder film, The Army of the Dead, that's coming out?
I've seen we've talked about the trailer. The trailer is immense. Actually, funny story. I tricked my wife into watching that trailer this week by there's a TV show over here called The Syndicate, I think it's called, and it's into like the 4th season now, and it's basically about people winning the lottery. Like, it's a drama thing, and it's about people winning the lottery, and then something happens so that they lose the money or something. And it's got the worst intro music in the world. It's the Gambler, but it's like a really, really terrible version. I was like to my wife, I said, this song's awful. It's really, really bad. And I went, oh, you know what? I'll go on YouTube and I will listen. I'll come and have a listen to this other version of it, the proper version. And she's like, I'm sure I know what this is anyway. And I was like, yeah, just watch this trailer. I was like, look, it's Drax. You'll be all right. You just watch it for 2 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is a good trailer as well, isn't it? This is good. Yeah. I was like, this is a 2-for-1. Like. Like she was at the end, she was like,
look, a tiger.
I think at the end she was like, I'm glad this is on Netflix. Then I don't have to go to the cinema and watch it. So like, you can just watch it when I fall asleep or in your own time, whatever's best for you. But I was like, yeah, but
was she giving you the old side eye, like watching it, like, is he looking at me watching this?
I don't know. I think she may have picked up her iPad at some point. But it is a brilliant trailer. It's a fantastic trailer, and it has a nice new spin on zombies. But yeah, again, why aren't there drones? Why aren't they just blowing those zombies up? Like, make it easy for yourself. You want to steal all that money from the bank vault? Just kill all the zombies first. What are you doing? and then just send in your ragtag group of mercenaries afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? I mean, you should be making films, Ped.
Well,
Should.
listen, this has always been said to me as well. You know, a lot of people have said, you know, what are you doing here? You should be out there. They don't finish the sentence by saying,
What are you doing here,
yeah,
Ped? Get
they don't
out.
finish the sentence by saying you should be making movies. But anyway, we've talked about games there for a while. Austin, what have you been watching this week? We always like to start the show by talking about what we've been watching this week. So, what have you been watching this week?
Sure. So I've been trying out a couple different TV shows. I've been mostly on a movie binge recently, but this week I've just been watching TV shows I've never watched before. So Attack on Titan. I'm not really a big anime guy. My co-host Travis of Trash Talk Podcast is a much bigger anime fan, but I checked out Attack on Titan just based on the premise alone. But yeah, so far it's a good show. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it before or not.
I was gonna say they're supposed to be making a live action of that, aren't they? I
think
heard
so.
rumors that they're attempting to do a live action.
I think it's a Jap. I think it's a Japanese live action,
Okay.
which they do actually a good amount of live action versions of their anime, but because of their limited budget compared to American films, they're usually not very good. But yeah, Attack on Titan's pretty good. Just premise alone of just like multiple walls going inwards, and the Titans are just smashed and slowly going inside. So like the middle like wall is like where all the rich people live, like the 1% basically, and everyone else is trying to keep these monsters out. Good premise, and so far it shows really nice animation. The violence is fun.
I was gonna say, and the premise is basically like post-apocalyptic, and these cannibalistic giants start showing up and just eating people, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a medieval setting, but with more steampunk elements. And humanity's basically trapped within these multiple walls, and these titans show up, and they are horrifying. They just have like no expression except for like a Joker smile, kind of, and they don't blink or anything. Disgusting. Yeah, that's a good show.
I really hate those non-blinkers. They're just terrifying me. I think we're gonna get a lot more of attacks on the 1%. I think that's going to be a running theme in movies and TV in the next few years, and different
probably
different guises. Like, you know, obviously that's a good way of sort of hiding the fact that you're doing it. But then we're going to get a lot more of that kind of thing where, I suppose like something like Elysium did it quite well as well. I mean, I like that film Elysium.
Yep.
I know it got a lot of.
It's good.
It is. It's a great movie, and the special effects are amazing.
Yeah.
But like, you're gonna get more and more, I think, as we go forward, of that, like the rich are sort of the bad guys. It doesn't matter what anyone else does in it. It's like they're the bad guys because everyone else. There's a good one there was a good one from the when was it, 2000s, maybe 2009. It was called District 13. It was a French movie.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, there was two.
Wasn't it South African?
No, that's District 9. That's no. That's District 9. See that, and that was made by the same guy
Got me.
who made Elysium, Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah.
So that was a dip. So that's
right.
Sort of the same. That's sort of the same in terms of the 1%. Now, District 13 is set in Paris, and it is about it's basically Paris has been like they've put a big wall around it, and all like the poor people. And it's basically based on true life in Paris anyway, because Paris is like this anyway. So like all the rich people live in this. Paris is a really weird city because it's different from a lot of cities. Maybe not like places like New York, but where like the center is like, you know, there's no inner city. So you have the city center, and then there's like no inner city. So the inner city in Paris is on the outskirts. It's literally all these big flats and big, huge estates where really poor people live, is on the edge. And then in this, they basically brick up these people and live in these little communities, so they can't go into Paris. And there's a guy in it who does a lot of parkour. It's like literally made this film for two guys to demonstrate their parkour skills. It literally, honestly, the guy's been in a lot of things. And then there was a sequel which is basically the same, and it's the same. It's just like trying to go after the 1%, and it is a really cool indie French film. District 13. Yeah, District 9 is the one from South Africa, the Neil Blomkamp. So I think we're gonna get a lot more of that in different guises going forward. So, cool. Anything else?
Eat the rich, Fred. Eat the rich.
Yeah, eat them all. Well, we might have to if things continue. Quite literally. Anything else you've caught this week?
Yeah, so I've been watching another anime, Godzilla Singular Point, which I'm a big Godzilla fan, and it's going to be on Netflix this summer. But I found a way that I'm not going to say how on this podcast to watch it early,
Okay.
and it's actually really good. Animation wise, it's incredible. So far, the story is a little slow, but I'm hoping it's going to pick up. But it's kind of a new take on another Godzilla take because there's a million reboots and redesigns of the character. It never ends. And something I've been watching a lot of on Netflix is The Last Dance, which is
amazing.
focuses on
Oh,
Michael Jordan's
so
last
good.
run with the Bulls.
Oh,
Such an incredible, sport documentary. So well edited.
Yeah, it's a great.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic. And considering that it was basically something that was obviously shot, 20 years ago as well, and then they've weaved in all these fantastic interviews and thing. It is incredible. I mean, just for the Space Jam pickup games, that's just incredible. That's the kind of stuff you dream happens, but there's no sort of evidence that it had happened. You just want these people to be doing these mad things every day. No, it's a great. I'm a real sucker for sports documentaries. In fact, I like a lot of sports documentaries more than I like actual sport. I do, because it takes.
Why is that, Ped? Why is that?
Because my life is horrific and I have to follow a really bad sports team or a very average sports team. So and I have to talk about them every day. No, but like I really like the F1 documentary that's on Netflix, F1 Driven to Drive, and I'm not a big F1 fan at all, but I really like just the mechanics of how it all works, and I really like the NFL documentaries that are on Amazon. And again, I'm not a big NFL fan, but I really like how sport works and how it works behind the scenes and how it all gets put together. Like, it's, what you see on the field is like the very end result. And I tell you what I really love as well.
It's all everything that goes behind it that builds it up. Like, because go on.
I was just gonna say I was a massive wrestling fan, a huge wrestling fan. I went to Texas to watch WrestleMania in 2001. I was a really, really big wrestling fan, and as you get older and wrestling's just crap now. Anyway, Vince McMahon's destroyed it. But as you get older and the people you see you loved, when you start finding out about the true stories that happen to those people, the true stories are a million times better than anything they could have ever put on the screen.
Yeah.
The books and the documentaries, and there's so much, because sport is. I know wrestling's not sport, but sport, as you watch this game for an hour or whatever it is, and it's up and down. And I know they say it has storytelling, and it doesn't. It's just sport. You see the same thing all the time. But when you find out the backstories or what drives them, or the fact that, like, in that, Scottie Pippen falls out with, Michael Jordan, and Dennis Rodman goes to Vegas like a day after the game and no one sees him for a week. That's the stuff I love. That's the stuff of going, oh my God, how did he do that after he did that? Like, there's in the wrestling stuff, there's a fantastic documentary on it. It's a series. It's on Vice TV. And it's called The Dark Side of Wrestling. The 3rd season starting in about 2 weeks, and it's absolutely amazing. It tells all the stories of Owen Hart and Brian Pillman and all these wrestlers that we all loved, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, and all these wrestlers that I grew up with, and really bad things happened to them, and you just start finding out all these things that was going on behind the scenes and how it made the story you watched on the screen seem like small fry compared to what was going on behind the scenes, what they were doing every single day in their lives. So I mean, that's what struck me about that as well, about the Jordan one, is a lot of people thought Jordan was an absolute icon, and now a lot of people think he's a villain. because of what they've seen in this documentary and what's the fallout of it. So no, it's an absolutely incredible documentary.
I was gonna say that one episode where he talks about getting the food poisoning right before the game, and then goes out and plays an absolute blind. And you're like, Jesus, the man's a machine. Like just wouldn't be stopped. And like what did he? The one game he plays in his old Jordans that he played in.
Oh yeah.
And his feet were like bleeding at the end. And you're like, oh my god, just like shredded his feet.
Yeah, today's NBA, because I'm a big NBA fan, it's much softer than it was back then, and it kind of become to a point where watching NBA is boring. Players are just constantly taking days off, and no one wants to risk an injury. Because they're making millions of dollars.
Well, they might have to shoot a commercial the next day. So you don't.
Yeah, they might have to
you don't want to be injured for that, dude. You know what I mean? You don't want to be shooting. You know. I've got two.
Watching Jordan. Oh yeah.
Go on. Continue.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, just watching these guys in The Last Dance just fight out in practice, and like you were saying, like wear old shoes just to be able to play, even if it tore up his foot, it's just entertaining to watch. And like you were saying, like often the most interesting part of sports is what happened behind the scenes and what led up to these famous games rather than the games themselves.
Yeah, because you find out all the detail what goes on, you know, that like you're just saying then if someone was ill or someone, you know, had a fight with each other or guys were busted up or wherever, and you know you find out all these little things that change your perception of people in whatever sport it is. That's, as I say, like I love basically every sports documentary. All the 30 for 30s are incredible.
Oh, the 30 for 30s are amazing.
Because they just give you an insight into the actual people, and that's what sport doesn't do very often anymore. Like in suppose the 80s and 90s, you got a little bit more of a full-rounded image of what a sports person was, because they didn't have all these people circling them, all these PR guys and all these, you know, you got true reflection. And now because they're also guarded, because they know that stories will come out about them if they do the wrong thing, or you know, everyone's got a phone or stuff. They can't let themselves be loose. You know, you imagine a sportsman now going to Vegas and like spend the 3 or 4 days there, and everyone would have a camera phone, everyone would take pictures of them, and there's no way that could happen now.
Absolutely.
So the fact that, you know, sports just boring now. There's no characters in it anymore, and that's why it's actually shocking when people speak out on sports now, the likes of LeBron James and stuff like that. People are like, you can't do that. You can't like bring politics, or you can't say, you know, this has happened or that's happened, because everyone just sees a sanitized version of sport now. So it is, these documentaries shine a brilliant light on stuff and just gives you a better idea of what's going on. So yeah,
I was going to say, missing the Dennis Rodmans of the world.
Well, there's a brilliant. I don't know if you've seen the 30 for 30 Dennis Rodman episode. It's fantastic.
I didn't know there was one.
Well, there's one on the Pistons that he played for before they mentioned that in it, like how horrible they were and like they were like the bad boys. So there's a documentary on them, and then there's also a documentary on Dennis Rodman himself, and that is absolutely fantastic. It's so illuminating how he, you know, obviously it's meant things are mentioned in that about, like, you know, when he had really dark times, and they go into it further in this documentary, and basically how he was like literally living the life of a different person until he met Madonna, and then Madonna just let him free essentially, and he became this person who didn't care about wearing dresses and stuff like that. So you should watch that as well, just to get the more rounded picture, because he's the star guy. I mean, you know, Scottie Pippen is literally the most like boring man in the world with the deepest voice in the world.
Deepest voice in the world, yeah.
He should definitely get into like voice acting, because he could be like the next like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
that voice.
He should be in South Park, or definitely Family Guy. He could be a friend of Peter Griffin, I imagine, with that voice. It's incredible. Aaron, what have you been watching this week?
I watched and got through Raised by Wolves, which was on HBO Max in the US, and I think it was on Sky Atlantic in the UK.
Yeah.
But it is a just mad weird show. Basically, it's kind of pitches itself against future race where it's very post-apocalyptic. You've got people who believe in a god and people who are people don't believe. And basically, they've destroyed the planet through war, and they have to escape and find another planet. And basically, just shows you trying to survive. And they've got these 2 androids taking care of these kids, and they're trying to restart civilization. And it's just bonkers. It's mad. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a weird show. It's not going to tickle everyone's fancy, but it was interesting. It was worth a watch. I enjoyed it, but wouldn't say it was amazing either. And in the same breath.
Yeah, that was like one of those shows. It probably came out about 4 or 5 months ago, even maybe more. Yeah, it's
around. I think it was around September.
So one of those shows that sort of just passed me by. I knew it was out, and I just never. It's one of those shows that actually, I think it suffered from not having probably anyone big in it, and it suffered from not having enough word of mouth, and it suffered from not spending enough money in publicity and stuff. Because when you think of something like weird, you think of something like Westworld. And Westworld was just brilliant the way, number one, it had brilliant actors in it, but number two, it also put itself out there and really drove the publicity and stuff. Whereas this, I've heard good things about that show, but I don't think it's not like, I know it sounds stupid, but you almost want to be, you do almost want to be told to watch things now. We're so reliant on word of mouth and someone literally push it, and that's why we do this almost at the beginning of the shows, is you almost need that recommendation, because we've got so much to watch now. And now, let's be honest, how often do we just go on Netflix and watch things, the previews for things, and then just keep going to them because no one wants to commit to anything, just in case it takes up time that could be taken up with something else, but we never really settle on anything. So you think about it, there's so many times where you go, I might as well just watch this, but you don't, and you want people to tell you. And I think that's where this show failed, is nobody went on a limb and went, the show's great, this show's amazing. It's like the amount of people who go, oh, you've got to watch Ozark, it's amazing, Ozark's amazing. And, I haven't watched it because I've got my own mind. But, I just haven't watched it yet. But
a few times I shake my head at your head.
No, I just haven't watched it yet. But I know that's down to me. I'm probably missing out on something I'd like. And I think that show is definitely a show where you're like, I haven't seen anything that's convincing me, and it may be a great show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious about it. I did search afterwards, and apparently they get picked up by HBO Max for a second season.
Oh, that's good.
So they are going to delve further into it. There are a few pretty decent plot twists that I didn't see coming as well. So, it wasn't bad. It wasn't Sharon.
Have you been tempted, Austin, to watch that at all? Is it your cup of tea?
Kind of to go off what you were saying, nothing was put into advertisements. I was never subjected to it. Like you said, we're almost told what we have to watch because advertisements on YouTube or just, wherever on the TV. Yeah. I was never forced to watch that trailer. I watched it maybe once just because I was curious and I just saw my recommended. But I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what the story was. It looked cool, and it looks like it could have been a bizarre show, which I sometimes like to watch weird things like that. But because I never heard anyone watch it, I just never got around to watching it, which is kind of sad.
Do you know a trick I think they're really missing for shows like this? And I've only seen this done once. Is going to YouTubers, so the likes of Emergency Awesome, which I watch, or something like New Rockstars, and paying them to do a preview. So I did. So Emergency Awesome did one for Utopia.
He did one.
They did one.
He did one for a YouTube one, didn't he? Once.
Did he? I don't know, but I know they definitely did one for Utopia, which was on Amazon, and he did one for the first one, and he was like, yeah, we'll do more of this. And he never did any other videos. And he did say in the video it was paid for by Amazon. But he did a breakdown of the first episode, and he's introducing his audience of over 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, I think he's got, to this show, and almost giving it the rubber, giving it the stamp. And I see stuff like the likes of that, the likes of those two channels, or Mr. Sunday Movies, or wherever, there's a lot of big ones out there, and that's where I would, if they're making breakdown videos for them, then I'm probably going to watch the show. And I don't understand, like, these shows and these people who are doing these shows are missing out a big trick here. It's almost like now become a thing of, like, if your show gets a breakdown from one of these big channels on YouTube, then you must be doing something right. So obviously, like, something like Westworld, they got I think Emergency Awesome did do breakdowns after every episode. So it was where, you know, it was clearly he thought it was a big show. You just think, why aren't they tapping into these channels? Why aren't they using
absolutely,
them?
Because, like, if you're going to, like, say, like, you're a big Marvel fan, you love going to Emergency Awesome, New Rockstars, whatever. You go to those channels to look at the breakdown. Okay, I'm not a big comic book fan. I've only ever watched the films. I want to know the Easter eggs. You go there, and all of a sudden, there's Westworld trailers there. There's Zack Snyder's, like, Justice League or whatever. Like, all of a sudden, that's introductions. Well, like, all right, well, he's doing breakdown videos. He must be interested. I like what he does. You know, maybe I'll give it a go. I'll go watch Westworld now instead. And you're right. They're missing a trick by leveraging, like, something like that as well, because you see the views they're getting. Like, it's easily, like, evidenced, you know what I mean? You can see the numbers that they're doing, so, like, why not? But again, I think some of that just falls on, it's probably marketing teams that just are aging out as far as kind of, like, looking at traditional media and saying, like, oh, we need to put a commercial on the TV.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not how everyone watches things, and they can still use it as another avenue as well as TV or, you know, social media.
Yeah, it's a path that, you know, isn't really being exploited. I don't understand why it's not being exploited. These people have got huge channels and they want content. You know, we've just been talking off air. They're saying, like, you know, for the next month, there's no real big standout show now that, you know, there's nothing coming out on Disney Plus apart from the Bad Batch. That's one a week. So these channels have got to, like, theorize about all this kind of stuff. There'll be maybe a couple of trailers for Marvel films, maybe. They need to fill their channels with something. So why would you not go to these channels and go, oh, you've got this new show, do us a favor, you know, I will pay you. You know, you can say we're doing it for you, but this show, you know, this episode is sponsored by HBO Max, and we're going to talk about this thing. It's like, get your like, you know, get your channel out there, get your episode out there, whatever you're doing. You know, I don't understand it myself, but
looking for a YouTube channel. So so anyone who needs advertising for shows,
we'll talk about it. Anything else you've watched, Aaron, this week?
Just the stuff we're going to talk about in a little bit. To be honest, it was a kind of crazy, hectic week. Do you know what I did watch? And I wasn't going to mention it, but I watched it with my wife. We watched Thunder Force on Netflix, and it was utter trash.
Okay,
I don't recommend it at all.
It's the female superhero movie.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy, and I forget who else is in it. Octavia Spencer, that's the one. Yeah, it kind of didn't know where it wanted to be. It felt a lot of times like a cheesy family superhero film, but then, you know, they'd go a little overboard with some of the casting every now and again, and, like, what they were trying to do. So it just couldn't quite figure itself out, and had some funny moments, but, like, overall, it was just. I mean, my wife fell asleep in it. I mean, I was just like, she was the one who picked it, and then she fell asleep. I was like, "Are you messing? I'm sitting here, and I could be watching something else."
There you go.
We all know what it's like.
Yeah, we. I can't wait till my missus falls asleep. Urban Sushi is in the comments and says, "Finish The Sopranos and don't feel like watching anything again." Fair enough.
Oh, the show hole.
Fair enough. The
show hole is the worst place to be.
Is it though?
What show? Well, here, Ped. What show did you finish after it and just felt like a massive hole and just like
The Wire?
I just want to keep watching it.
The Wire. The Wire's got for me. He's got the. Do you know? I never finished The Sopranos. I'll be honest. No. I've watched the last episode, but I never. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the time and the place, and now it's almost like I just can't be bothered going back. And I know everyone loves The Sopranos, and every time I watched it, I loved it. I just sort of switched off in the last season because it was a time and a place kind of thing. Just I wasn't paying attention. But The Wire did, and I've probably said this before. It was because when The Wire got put on in the UK, it was literally probably after it had all been shown, and they put it on BBC Two, and they put 3 episodes on a week, and it was just like on every week. Bam, 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 dead quick. Got through it really quickly, and the last episode is just incredible. I just absolutely loved it. So that was, but there's been more, of course. But I never got through The Sopranos, and I love anything like that. Goodfellas is probably one of my best favorite films.
Oh, class!
Absolutely amazing. Last of the Corinthians says, this one's for you, Aaron. Sorry, says, is there a release date for the new Ozark?
No, not yet. I have been scanning and kind of looking to see if there's any news coming out. There's rumors there could be something coming out later in the year, like rumored to be around like sometime between September to December, but nothing confirmed. So I'm still looking. Once I get news, I will definitely post that out on our socials.
Cool. I watched Stowaway on Netflix.
Oh, that's the Anna Kendrick one?
Yeah, it's utter crap. Like, utter crap. Like, literally, like, crap. It was just terrible. Like, it was... Do you know, like...
It seemed like it had a good premise. Like,
yeah,
it looked interesting.
Good premise, terrible film. It's like, I don't know you guys have... How many of you have watched these Netflix films? It's how slow, like, they move, some of them. And that's why they never go to the movies, like in the movies, because they just move really slowly. And it also seems like when they move slowly, they don't like create atmosphere with music either. And they all seem to be the same. So the premise of this one is there's a crew of 3, and it is one of those films as well where you don't see anything else. The budget is being spent on just the story, so you don't see anything else going on. There's no like B-roll or second, crew out there filming other bits. It's just a rocket takes off. It's going into space. It's going to Mars, which I didn't probably realise till about halfway through it. Honestly, I didn't even know it was going to Mars. It's about halfway through. I thought it was just going to a shuttle space station. Sorry, and there's Anna Kendrick, Daniel Day Kim from Lost, and Toni Collette, and one of them finds blood on the floor, opens up this panel, and there's a guy inside it, and that is never explained in the entire film why that guy is in the panel.
No flashbacks or anything.
Nothing. There's nothing. So this guy is in the panel of a spaceship. How does that happen? He worked on the crew. He worked on the ground crew, so that's sort of explained. He worked on the ground crew. Fine, yeah, nice one. And there's nothing else explained. And then it's a battle. It's a race against time because of him, they are using up their resources. Because not only because something gets broke when he breaks into the
comes out the panels.
And then it's a race against time. Oh my god, it was terrible. It was just and I don't say bad things about most films, but this was just like, and at the end I had to like rewind it and then read up on what basically happened at the end. It was so bad. It was so bad. It was just...
Did it rewind and make the noise as well?
Yeah, it did. And they all did the rewind action. No, it was really bad.
Netflix has been really into some of the these space type.
Well, they made what was the other one?
Outside films.
What was the other
Midnight Sky with George Clooney.
Which, like I said to you, I couldn't decide if it was absolutely terrible or there was some kind of like deeper layer to it that I maybe wasn't getting it. But at least in that, there was like more than one thing going on. There was an Earth-based story and there was a space-based story, and it was how they both combined, and there was flashbacks. And even though it wasn't a great film, it had something to it. But I think both of them failed from the same thing. Is that I think neither of them deserve to be made into films. Ultimately, I think it's just because of everything that's going on. If you can get 3 actors in a room where you use very limited sets and you don't show anything else, and the special effects of like space and things are really cheap now, then you can knock something together. And as long as you've got a couple of big names in it, and then you can splash those big names on a poster, and it's like on Netflix, then you're in for a winner in a way, because it's just content, isn't it? And I was like, I seen it and I was like, yo, I'll watch this, because it was that thing of like, I'd seen, ironically, we're talking about that other show, like I'd seen a few posters and I was like, I was drawn in to watch it, and I was like, I might as well waste 2 hours or whatever it was watching this and giving this a go. And I actually don't mind bad films. I'm weird. I don't mind sitting through bad films. I'll find little things in them, but I just couldn't find anything in this, because also the ending just seemed like ridiculously stupid as well for me. I was like, why would you do that? Why would you just club one of them over the head and eat them?
Well, I was going to say, at least they would have created like a bit of a talking point or some tension or something from the film that you weren't expecting. So, yeah, because I watched one, I think it was a couple of weeks ago on Netflix, and again, another space-based one. But I had Pedro Pascal in. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. It's Pedro.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love the guy? And it's a film called Prospect. And, oh, it was a drag.
Yeah.
It was a real drag. It just... The script was kind of... It tries to lose it, like in the dialect and what they use to convey like what they're talking about. Like basically Pedro Pascal's almost like this space cowboy, the way he talks, like it's crazy. But yeah, it just ultimately it was too overly complicated, and then again it was just dead slow. But same thing, you get to the end, you're like, oh, it's over, okay, fine, all right. Like every now and again, Netflix does these really, really good films. Like I think we both watched Triple Frontier, done with Ben Affleck and Oscar Isaac and Pedro Pascal. The one where they have to go to South. Did you ever watch that?
I never watched it. No, I never watched it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's actually really, really good. They go to South America. Black Ops, and they go to South America to rob a cartel, and basically it's about time we got paid, and basically everything goes to shit.
Is that a bit
that's a really good Netflix.
So like a bit like the one that Ryan Reynolds was in as well. What was that one called? Something 8?
6 Underground or something.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. It was like the same, wasn't it? Like they put one big actor in it, and then like just get Michael Bay to blow shit up, and that's it, isn't it? And that's it, isn't it? It's
Very
like
much.
that's it, isn't it? It's weird, isn't it? Because we've had the Oscars this week, and like all the big films. I know we had really little choice, but a lot of them were destined for streaming platforms anyway, I think, and just never,
Most of them were.
and never quite made it to the pictures, to the movie. So there is a weird mix of absolute dross. It's just that we get to see the dross because it's there, and but sometimes you do. Sometimes you get some like films where you go like that Midnight Sky. I literally at the end of it was like, I have no idea what to make of that film. I really didn't, but it did have, what I would say about that film is it had an idea behind it that I did think was a good idea, because I know it came from a book and I know the book was successful, but ultimately it didn't quite fulfill it because it didn't have the money given to it, and there was another one recently, wasn't there? We were talking about the one that was on Sky Movies, which was I'm trying to think what it's called, the SAS one. It was called.
Oh yeah. It
was called.
I know which one you talk.
It was called SAS Red Notice, and it's got some big stars in it. Have you got this yet? Has this come over to you guys yet?
No, it hasn't. I'm sure it will, but sometimes there's a bit of a delay when they eventually come.
So it was made by Sky Movies over here started making movies, and they had the one that won an Oscar this week, and I can't. This is where we blank again. The one that won the best
IMDb.
The one that won the best screenplay.
They didn't follow the Oscars.
Oh,
I can't bear that stuff.
Why?
I just something about award shows. They just, it's like striking a knife through my heart. I'm just like, no.
Go on, Austin. What were you saying then?
Saying was a promising young
That's
woman.
it, right? So promising young woman.
Yep.
So Sky made that as well, and that's won an Oscar this week. So that's really good for them. Yeah, they made that. Yeah. So and they made this SAS Red Notice, and it's got it came from a book from a guy who was in the SAS, and it was part of a series. And again, it's like perfectly fun. It's basically a streaming movie because it went straight on Sky Movies platform here, and Same, like you can watch it, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's like it's not great. It's fun. It's got some really well known people in it, and you just watch it because it's like, yeah, that's fine. It's an hour and a half of entertainment. I'll forget about it the minute I've watched it, and you're like, great. And it might spawn some sequels that'll be made by the same people. It won't cost a fortune, and it's like, you know, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. You don't mind the cut in certain things as long as the story entertains you. But when the story doesn't entertain you, then what's the point? I just don't understand how half of these films get made. But
I was gonna say Netflix, it's kind of hit and miss with some of those, because you've got like ones like Extraction with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, that's great. I like
the Old Guard, Project Power.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Again, yeah, big names, and the stories hold up, and like they do pretty well, and you're like, yeah, this is good.
I think what it is, I think the action films are a lot better because you can just like you can just get some good choreographers in, get a couple of good stars in, fill them round with basically stuntman. See, that's why action films I think work on streaming platforms, because you just get one big name, one supporting character, and everyone in it then is like basically a stuntman, and you just ask them to do a little bit of acting, and you get that good action film, because that's all you want. You're not really asked about the story in the first place. I mean, you think about Extraction, it's just about a guy going to find a kid, and he just walks around beating people up for an hour and a half, and you're fine with that. And because it's Thor, you're even more fine with it. So it's just like,
I was going to say, and is it executive produced? I think by the Russo brothers.
Yeah, and because it's set in India as well, it's got this exotic location, and you're never quite sure what's going, like where the lay of the land is. Because we spoke about this last week. It's like when films get made in the US, because we all literally know the geography of. I mean, you know, I expect you two to know the geography a bit more than I do, but because you know the geography of America so well, especially in like places like Manhattan and things like that. You almost know what's around every corner. Whereas when you're watching movies that are set in Europe or set in like places like the subcontinent or Africa or places like you're never quite sure what's going to happen next, you know. So I think that keeps people on the toes. Yeah, there you go.
The best worst example is I forget which. I think it's like the third Transformers film. There was one part where they're in DC and it's terrible. Honestly, it's a great example at this point. They're in DC and they're in like the Air and Space Museum or something like that, and then all of a sudden he goes out the back door, and all of a sudden he's just in a desert. It's like Arizona, and you're like, were you expecting no one to question this? Like DC doesn't have any like massive open arid lands with like all these like old like plains on it and stuff like that. And even my wife was looking at me like, is this stupid? How? Yeah. But yeah, going somewhere like India, you don't know what to expect.
You don't. Yeah. So there you go. What else have I watched? I've watched a lot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's just amazing. It's just
one thing we need to get you on this week, and I'm going to sort it after this. Is The Handmaid's Tale season 4 hit this week? Yeah,
I'll watch that as soon as I can get it. But yeah. Always Sunny in Philadelphia is just the most ridiculous program in the world. It's like Community, but with a really, really nasty streak. Like,
have you ever seen it, Austin?
Oh yeah, I love that show. I just randomly pick different seasons, different episodes to watch. I don't watch it from start to finish. Just every episode's just ridiculous, and they're a bunch of just assholes.
Yeah, the horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible people. They just walk over everyone. They're so entitled.
Except Charlie, who's just stupid.
Yeah,
I can
completely ignorant to everything around.
He's just stupid, so I don't mind Charlie. And Frank is horrible, but I like him because he's horrible. But the other three, like you just said, are so entitled. Like, like Dennis and Dee are just the worst people on earth. And it's amazing. But what's brilliant is basically every episode, nothing goes right for them. So because I've never watched this show until like the last maybe month, and I'm on like season 6 now, season 7. It is so interesting watching it with that like time delay as well, watching them use flip phones and catching up with world events. It's so funny, but they are absolute horrible people.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say,
I'm glad they always lose at the end. Whatever dumb plot they come up with to try to like break the system. It doesn't matter. Their plan always fails at the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It is amazingly like self-knowing, of course, that they are horrible people. There's no, it is really clever. There's a deeper layer to it, of course. They know they are horrible people. They know everything they're doing is like goes against, they're just horrible. But at least the show knows they're horrible and is saying to you that these people are horrible and we will not let them get away with this. So, have you seen Mythic Quest at all?
I have not.
Well, that's on Apple TV, and it's based in a gaming company, and a lot of the people who are in the show have something to do with it. So it's like a polished up version. A lot of the same kind of jokes and humor, but it's a little bit nicer, and it's in a more 21st century setting. A games company. Sorry, what was that?
So is it some of the same cast?
Well, you've got Rob McCallany. Is that? I can't even remember what his second name is. Robert McCallany. So he's the main guy in it. And I think the only
Charlie Day writes.
He's the producer and writer, and I think the only other character is Cricket. He's in it as well. But I didn't even know like he's in it. He's obviously older now than the episodes I'm watching. But he's like a lot cleaner cut, and he's like a manager. But he's like a manager but who gets walked over. It is a good show. It's about this company who makes a online game, basically. Like a game that's I'm trying to think of what they're called. Or what the comparison is like.
RPG.
Yeah, it's like a game that's always going on, and they're always having to make updates for it and stuff.
Like open world.
Yeah, and people bring their own stuff into it, and they buy loot crates or whatever. And it's a good premise. It's different, and so it's fun. But it's a lot nicer and a lot cleaner, and there's writing on it and stuff. So that is good. So, I've also been... What else have we been watching this week? So, Line of Duty, which you've not got in America, which is absolutely amazing. It's the #1 show in the UK. It's absolutely, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing show. It's the last show. It's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. So, you need to watch it because it's absolutely amazing.
So, was the final last weekend?
No, the final's this weekend, and it's just the best TV.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, because you told me a little bit about it, obviously, but... Did they finally reveal a?
No. They'll never reveal. They'll never reveal the guy. They'll never reveal him. I'm pretty sure.
They're gonna end the show when it finally goes, and they're gonna leave it open to like 3 different people,
so
aren't they?
It's about like police corruption essentially, and their involvement with organized crime, gangster, like our version of gangsters, and it's just such a good show. Such a good show. So watch that. And what was the other? Deutschland 89, which is again, I'm the only person who watches it. It's a German show set in the Cold War. So there was Deutschland 83, Deutschland 86, and this is Deutschland 89, and the Berlin Wall has fallen. It's a brilliant show. It's about spies in Germany when all through the Cold War. It's such a good show. But what's really interesting is because it's called Sundance Par Fundy, so it's got parts of English in it, and it's mostly German subtitles, but it's got a little bit of English in it and CIA and stuff. It's if you're interested in that part of history, which I find really fascinating because it's like it's a really unexplored part of like modern history that really a lot of films and TV shows don't talk about. I know the Americans did, but that was set in America, and you had, I think, Atomic Blonde recently, which did a decent version of showing it. But I do think it's a really good part of modern history that you never see get covered in films. I don't know why, because it's like it affects it affects everyone. It affected all of us. If you're in America, obviously fighting Russians. If you're in the UK, the same, and we're only around the corner. So if like anything kicked off, we would have been blown up first. And it doesn't ever get covered. And when you think of the things that get covered continually in movies, it's weird that this brilliant period of time doesn't get covered. And you think of like the amount of spy films and the amount of like westerns and sci-fi and this real part of history that you could go in and really have a good play about with because it's real. And no one seems to want to do it. I don't know why. I find it fascinating, real fascinating, and also because it was only 30 years ago as well. So that's definitely worth catching if you're into that kind of thing. Yeah, okay. We've spent a lot of time talking about things we've watched this week. A lot of time, probably more because there's three of us. Let's do some news, Aaron. Let's get into this. What's going on? Be quick.
Throwing me on the spot.
Well,
be quick. All right, I'm going to do this super quick. So Malcolm Spellman was announced this week that he's going to be coming back to work on Captain America 4. He was the writer and showrunner of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so awesome for him. Spellman also came out and said that there's way more MCU projects in the pipeline than has actually been released to the public. So he seemed to be very excited about what's coming up in the MCU, so that bodes well. This week, as far as kind of different things that were on videos you can watch, there was a Falcon and the Winter Soldier featurette because the assembled making of show is on tomorrow on Disney Plus. There was also a Black Widow featurette. Obviously, that movie's coming out in July. Yeah. So it's just around the corner from that. That'll be on Disney Plus Premiere and in the cinema. There was also a trailer for Luca. Which this looks like a really good film. It does
look like a really good film, this.
Yeah. And it's funny. I
was going to say as well, Soul won the Oscar, didn't it, for Best Animation? But apparently there's people at Pixar who are slightly pissed because it's another film that's going to go straight to Disney+. And I know, obviously, Soul won an Oscar. I know there was not much room for that to do anything else but come out. But even apparently people at Pixar are a little bit pissed because they're not even getting the premium service, so they feel like they've been like really downgraded. And this film looks really good. It looks a really good premise as well. A couple of kids who are like sea monsters, who decide it's like a weird alternative on The Little Mermaid. So like these little weird sea monsters who want to go and live on the land and enjoy this little Italian town and everything that's going on, and but this little town is obviously trades on fish as well. So they suddenly, if they were discovered, could be like the catch of the day, essentially. So it looks really, really good, and it's disappointing, and I'd be really disappointed if I'd worked on something like this, because if you think about it, they could have left it till August and brought it out in the UK and America without really a real problem. But they've not. They've decided they're going to put it straight on Disney Plus, and I for one feel that's.
I was going to say, do you wonder if some of the disappointment is because of like the revenue it could make? Do you think like it's that's not tied to like a bonus for them, or do you think it's based on? Or do you think it's
cynical old dog, you.
Or do you think it's based on the fact that like streaming films don't tend to get recognized for like come award season, which does seem to be changing the culture towards Netflix and Disney Plus? Like some of that is like changing now, which it should be.
I'm gonna let Austin take this one.
Sure,
the floor is yours.
Yeah, so, well, it's kind of interesting because Soul and what's the other movie came out? Raya and the Last Dragon. Raya and the Last Dragon cost $15, which is the reason why I didn't check it out, even though it was a good trailer. Soul, when it's free to watch on Disney Plus. But Soul won Best Animated Film by far. It blew everything else out of the water. And there was some other decent anime movies that came out last year. For me, I don't necessarily feel as bad because with Pixar, there's a little bit of part of me that's a little bit, I don't know, cynical towards Pixar, because every Oscar season, every year it's Pixar for Best Animated Film. And there's sometimes like really good animated films that just don't get watched enough because they're smaller studios or not Disney or not Pixar. But Soul actually deserved to win this year, so I don't really feel so bad for the people that work there, just because movies get seen and they always win awards. But I get they would want their movie in theaters, you know.
I think Onward only got a couple of weeks in the cinema as well, didn't it? I think.
Did yeah, it was due to come out right around the time everyone was going into lockdown, April, March sometime.
Yeah. No, I mean,
was a good film as well.
I don't really feel sorry for Pixar itself or Disney. I just feel a bit sorry for the people who made it, that they don't quite. And the irony is, like you just said there, maybe more people seen Soul on Disney Plus because we've all been in lockdown, and I don't know how many people would have gone to see that. I don't think I would have gone to see it if it had been. I don't think it was one of them where it was like I watched it on like, you know, a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon when there was nothing else on. But I don't think I would have gone and paid, you know, 15, 20 pounds to the cinema to watch that. I would have caught it on Disney Plus anyway. So it did, because it didn't really grab my attention. But when I watched it, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that it won. Yeah, with the music, it won the music, an Oscar for the music as well. And Trent Reznor's music was absolutely brilliant. It was a weird, like, I knew it was his music straight away from watching films like Gone Girl. He has this really weird, unique style, and I really enjoyed like how it messed about with the stuff like that was in like the weird, not heaven, but the bit before heaven, whatever that is in this movie.
Oh, like the stairs to the great.
Yeah, but there was like the place where he went with all the freaky, like weird Picasso kind of things.
Yeah, that's like the before.
Yeah. But I really liked the way it played with that and played with the stuff that was happening on Earth, and also like the idea of what actually makes a good life and all that kind of thing. I don't think it showed it. A lot of it was really grown up as well, because it was like that idea of like just enjoy your life. Like, stop waiting for something to happen that's going to make your life complete. I thought a lot of that was like really grown up. Like, because obviously kids would just be sitting there going, oh, that's a funny shape. That cat's funny. You know, it's like...
I was going to say, my kids have watched that movie now 3 times. Like, they love it.
Yeah, but they don't get any of that stuff.
No. They just like the bit where the 22 argues with the one fella about how you pronounce Euro. They'll run around going, gyro!
There you go. So no, and I think that actually benefits of them being on Disney Plus. But this looks slightly different. This Luca, it looks like, because it's a little bit more. It looks like a lot of it more is on the surface. I just feel bad for the people who made it, because they'd just be sitting there going like, oh, another one, you know, because there must be that kind of little bit of stigma, mustn't there, about making movies that go straight to home entertainment or whatever it is, Disney Plus or whatever. So. But I don't care really, because they earn more money than me, so who cares?
Yeah. I think like a couple of years ago, there was that stigma of like, if your movie was just straight to Netflix, it was kind of like subpar. But luckily, Netflix especially has been doing a good job, and HBO has been doing a good job recently. Amazon Prime, of course, they won Best Picture, No Man's Land, but with Netflix especially, they've been going out and really getting like the big hitters of like the best directors, Martin Scorsese and David Fincher. Yeah.
Except Stowaway. That was terrible.
Yeah. Except
tell us how you really feel.
Got to put Hateful Eight on Netflix and extend it to like a 4-hour movie instead of 3 hours and 15 minutes or whatever. So they've been doing a good job. So now, personally, I'm kind of seeing Netflix. Every award season now, they got multiple films lined up, Best Picture or whatnot. And a majority of what Netflix puts out on Netflix is just utter crap. But they do have some good movies up there towards Oscar season.
I was going to say, we talked about this last year, didn't we, Ped? Because didn't Spielberg made a big stink over like they should have, like, streaming services should have their own like award or something.
And he signed straight up to the Apple TV money, didn't he? No, it's a sliding scale. We'll get better movies as we go along, and I understand that. And I think for a movie like Luca, it's probably been getting made for like maybe 3-4 years, and I just the people who make it, who probably like right at the back, you know, the guys you never see, are just waiting for that one big night where they see their movie on the screen and everyone goes to
I designed that nose.
Well,
that's my nose.
You know what it is, though? It's a collective thing, isn't it? I suppose it's like you get to go and share the experience of other people, and you're never gonna get that when people are watching it at home. You're never gonna get that experience of what it's like to be in a room and watch other people enjoy something you've made. And I think there's a little bit of that as well in it. So maybe
I mean, I wonder, because I know COVID's played into this naturally, but like, given what Disney Plus is aiming to do. Like, because we talked about this when Disney Plus first came out, right? Like, that one movie Noelle with Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Like, Disney's going to be making more of these decisions now, regardless. Like, they need content for the streaming service, and they can't always afford to back or advertise, especially for the marketing campaigns, films to go into the cinema. Because if it does, then you've got a real target to hit. They've got to hit certain like revenue goals for them to feel like it's been successful.
Yeah, definitely. No, I just, I don't know. It was just for this one particular movie. I think it just looks so nice. It just
good.
looks so nice, and it looks like it deserves to be on a big screen. So there you go.
It looked like it could be a good summer family-friendly film that a lot of people go out and really enjoy. But moving on, there was news or rumors from comicbook.com that there is apparently a Mandalorian game in the works that will be across all gaming platforms. So that could be interesting from Star Wars.
I'm a bit disappointed. I wanted it to be a PS5 and 4 exclusive. Yeah. Don't let the Xbox people get their mitts on it.
Yeah, that would be 30 players. Yep.
There was
Mandalorian game that could be quite interesting. Like a picture between that Jedi Fallen Order game, like Red Dead, with that Western feel to it. That could be really good.
Yeah, as well.
Run around on your jetpack as well.
I think.
Yes.
What's interesting about something like that is there's periods of time which haven't been explored in his life, which could play into it. But you've got to be it's a difficult balance when you're working with a character that you're already using on the TV. Like the best thing with Fallen Order was it was a new character. So, when you're playing with Cal, you are delving into something that you're already aware of, and the fall of the Jedi Order, and the hunt from the Sith looking for them and all the rest of it. And it's really interesting to be part of a character you've not heard before, because you don't know what the consequences are going to be. And what the things that you do in it aren't going to affect the bigger story, because we haven't come across them yet. Whereas the problem with something like The Mandalorian is that if you play as him, you ultimately where he ends up, and then any decisions they also make have to be canon. So you have to talk to a lot of different people about where, and also. It limits you on the screen as well, because again, what's been great about The Mandalorian, it feels like it's just to the left of anything we've ever seen in Star Wars. So you can literally do what you want, and you can bring old characters in and new characters, and nobody knows this guy, so you don't know what the end game is for him, and that must be so freeing. But once you start putting things like games into the mix, you start muddying the water. So that'll be really interesting to see where that goes, and whether it's in the past or in the present or whatever they do with it.
Yeah. So I mean, from everything I've heard this week, it's in extremely early development. So I'll have to see what comes of that, and when we eventually get something, but. Look for that. There was also an image that leaked out this week of Matt Smith in House of the Dragon, which is a Game of Thrones spin-off featuring basically the rise or the pinnacle of the Targaryen Empire for Game of Thrones. So it's been a long time since. It's funny because I posted this on social media. A lot of people are like, I'm still not over season 8 of Game of Thrones. I don't want it.
Yeah, the worst thing about what happened with Game of Thrones is that nobody actually cares. I'm not really sitting here really bothered about a new show. Whereas if you'd asked me at the end of the second to last season, I'd have been like, oh, new shows, I need this, I need that. But no, I just don't care. No, I couldn't care less, because that last season
it ended on such a
because that last season was so bad. You just don't care. I'm not personally interested in anything Game of Thrones anymore. I don't. He's certainly like not in a rush to get the books finished either. So it's just like I don't care. I'm not really bothered. I don't care. I mean, I don't care who's in it. Doctor Who or not.
The one good thing to come out of all that horrible last season was D&D, who really rushed that season so they can get on to their next projects, because they were hired to make like a Star Wars trilogy. after a couple months down the road, they eventually left that project. So it sounds like Disney didn't want to deal with that.
A lot of their creative projects seem to like fall in the hole.
Oh yeah, definitely. They don't mind with Star Wars, especially. They don't mind firing directors. Like Marvel's pretty safe with keeping whoever they hire on board, but with Star Wars, they'll just fire anyone. With House of Targaryen, or was it House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, House of Dragon. I saw that image. It looks cool, but seeing Matt Smith with a blonde wig is kind of like, hopefully, it doesn't like take me out of it. You know,
a lot of people are hoping that it wasn't like a really bad wig as well.
Do you want him wearing a fez? No, I mean, listen. When it comes on, I'll watch it, and I know the cast is quite good, and it's again, there's a lot of like English. Lot of English thespians in it and stuff like that, but I'm in a way I'm sort of.
I was gonna say, do you think it's gonna have like an uphill battle essentially to try and get back to where it was?
Depends. Once the hype starts again, the hype will start and everyone will get on board, and it'll be a new thing. Yeah, and I suppose I don't know too much about it. I don't know if it's if it's based on books and the books have already been written and all that kind of thing. So if they have, then good, because the end of the last season was just failed massively. It failed to connect with the audience because they went away from obviously the outpaced the books, which was an issue. But hey ho, see what happens.
Moving on, there was a teaser trailer for The Tomorrow War featuring Chris Pratt. That's going to be on Amazon Prime exclusively, and it's coming out in July, I think it is. Didn't really reveal a lot in the trailer, but graphics look pretty good on it. I mean, Chris Pratt looks solid. Looks kind of interesting, but I will have to wait and see more once we get a big full trailer and try and figure out what the hell the premise is.
It does look like what we spoke of before. It does look like a movie where there is one big star in it and the rest of the people are people who nobody knows. So you don't really care about any of them. And it's just like that one. And I actually think these work. I think action movies work on streaming sites because you just want to watch an hour and a half of dumb nonsense. And I've got no problem with that. So whatever it is, and I'm sure it'll be fine because I think these movies benefit from the being a fast pace, so you don't have to slow the film down and have to then you start looking at what's going on. Whereas when they're action films, it's just like bam, 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 bam. You keep on going all the time, keep that pace going. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
There was a Dexter teaser trailer. It was only like 30 seconds, but apparently the show, which that was another show, right, where the final season was just terrible, or the finale really dropped the ball.
Most people hate the finale.
Yeah, but apparently that will be coming back to Showtime in the US this fall. So I guess we'll be getting a trailer sometime over the summer, but people seem pretty excited about that one coming back and. I think it's just coming back for one season. It's just a limited.
I think
they're just trying to basically redo the bad finale.
And I've heard there's something within the show that is going to try and make sense of that ending. I'm hoping it's a dream. I'm hoping he was in the shower or something, and he comes out there and he's like, "Oh, it was all a dream." I don't know. I'll give up on Dexter a long time ago. I really did. I never got to the end. Some of those shows just felt like they were just repeating themselves over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you gotta have that hard out, clearly envisioned, where you want to go, where you want to be, and kind of end it on your terms.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. Sometimes they write season by season, and they're kind of like, "Oh, we'll do this season."
Yeah.
And before they know it, the story's just they've lost it.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to bring it back into the end.
Yeah.
Writing stars, man.
I kind of like the trajectory of shows now, especially with the Marvel shows on Disney Plus, is that they're pretty much just limited series. They're not like the CW that they have to cram, or not even cram, pull out 23 episodes, just a whole bunch of filler. It's just however many episodes we need to tell a story. WandaVision, I think, was 8, and Falcon Winter Soldier was only 6.
Yep.
But they told the whole story within that time. So I'm glad studios are working more with that rather than we need a set number of episodes, so we have to fill up that time slot no matter what.
Yeah, I mean Netflix, were good about it originally. Like they did 13 episodes, but even that then started to become like it felt like a drag because every show had to be like 13 episodes, and you started to feel it on some of the seasons, like with Daredevil or an Iron Fist, and like, all right, some of this is dragging. They could have done this in 8.
Yeah.
Which now I think they're starting to adapt it based on each show is however long it needs to be to tell a story. So.
Yeah, I give up on a lot of those CW shows because for the same reason. I just felt like they were dragging. Felt like they could have didn't need half of those shows. But that's the problem with network TV, isn't it? They order 22. People have got to be paid, and all that kind of thing. Whereas
I was gonna say they want their ad revenue.
Exactly, and the streaming sites are making better TV for the simple fact is, like you just said, they can keep it neat and tidy. The episode lengths don't have to be all the same. Show lengths don't have to be all the same. The order and stuff. So, and the flip side of that though is you do get plenty of good shows but you've got to have, like you just said, Aaron, you've got to have it mapped out. You've got to know, what your start and what your end is and what your middle is, and be able to go through how many seasons and get there and have it all tied together, rather than being like, oh, got to the middle of season 3 and I don't know quite where we're going with it and stuff like that, because the audience will just drop off and then you never get it completed properly. Like you're just throwing it all together, that's horrible for the viewer. That when a show you really, really love, it just starts going nowhere. So we're very lucky. We've got a lot of good shows, obviously.
Oh, spoiled for choice. The only other things, there was a trailer this week just today actually, for Sweet Tooth, which is a massive comic book. It's a very, very popular comic book on DC. So that is coming to Netflix as a series by a guy called Jeff Lemire, who's also done a lot of very good DC and Marvel comics as well. So he's a prolific comic writer. So this looks like it could be kind of interesting. I don't know a whole lot about the premise, Austin. I'm going to throw it over to you because I think you've read some of the comics.
So I haven't actually read Sweet Tooth yet. It's been on my radar because I love Jeff Lemire. He wrote a really good Old Man Logan run.
Yes.
And
he did some Moon Knight as well. His Moon Knight runs were amazing.
Is terrific. Moon Knight is my favorite Marvel superhero characters, and his run is one of the best.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
He's a great writer. Besides Marvel and DC, he's done some writing with on Black Hammer, which is on Dark Horse.
Oh.
And that is an excellent superhero series. Basically, all these different characters are stuck on a small farm and they can't leave the town or they die. And they're basically kind of like rip-off of different Marvel DC characters. The main character is like a old man who used to be the Captain America type. There's a little girl who's trapped in a girl body, but she normally is an adult woman who says a word like Shazam, and she transforms into a little superhero girl, except now she's stuck in that form. So it's all these people with issues stuck in their superhero form in this farm. Yeah, Black Hammer is awesome. And they did a fun run with the Justice League actually at one point.
I remember seeing that come out. Yeah, they made a big deal of it.
Yeah, no, it's good. So I haven't read Sweet Tooth, but it's kind of like a fantastical series focused on a little boy with antlers, and it's mostly like
I was going to say it's supposed to be like post-apocalyptic, where the human species, I think they've started to deviate and mutate, and it's almost like some I forget what they call them, but I think they call them like some version of mutates or something. But humans start to like mix with animals. You've got like a fellow walking around with an elephant head, and it's just going to be very odd. It's going to be a very weird show, but again, like as far as I've said, like the comics itself, like people love them. So high expectations, at least for the show. It should be very good. Also, Invincible, which is being Amazon's big animated superhero show and very gory. It's an interesting show to watch. Has been renewed today for season 2 and a season 3. So the showrunner of that is Robert Kirkman, who's also obviously The Walking Dead.
I've not.
And that's a show.
Not watched that yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
It's good.
Yeah, definitely check it out. We've been watching it. I'm a little bit behind on it, but Aaron at some point is we jump on Trash Talk Podcast actually to talk about Invincible of Us, and I'm very excited for that episode. Because it's interesting because when you first start watching it, it seems like a family-friendly superhero show about a boy growing up to be a superhero, kind of like Peter Parker, and he's got a father who's like the equivalent of Superman.
Yep.
But then it takes a turn and it never goes back.
The very ending of the first episode, really, you're just like, holy shit!
Yes.
It's very graphic.
Cool.
It's interesting. Well worth a watch if you're looking for something, but it's solid animation as well. It's very much in the style of a lot of some of the DC movies, the animated movies and stuff like that. So it's a good animation quality. So
cool.
But that's the news of the week.
Okay.
That's everything I've got.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do, Aaron, right? Because I was just thinking then.
Ooh.
I think me and you should talk next week about For All Mankind.
Oh, we'll give some people a chance.
Yeah, give everyone a chance if you've not watched it. Make sure if you've not seen it. I mean, you've got 2 seasons to watch. But it's on Apple TV and it's absolutely amazing. And
so good.
The finale of the second season was last Friday, and it was the best finale I watched last Friday. That's all I'm gonna say. And I ain't down on Marvel. Like, I love my Marvel, but it was a million times better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. It was such it was an amazing show. So we'll talk about that next week, and we'll get into that. But it was the finale of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you've not seen it, this is your time to stop listening to the show and come back when you have. You've gone. Right, so Falcon and Winter Soldier was just pretty much a non-stop big hitting sort of show episode where, you know, everything concluded in its own way. We got straight away into the action. We got to see the new Captain America suit worn by Sam. And you know, Austin, that new suit is pretty good.
That is, yeah. It's nice to finally see him like take up the shield and wear that Captain America Falcon suit. And that last episode, even though Winter Soldier was in it, it was very much a Falcon episode.
Yeah.
And like that speech at the end was great. And for some reason, I'm not sure your guys' opinion on the last episode. I guess you guys will go over that in a second. But Rotten Tomatoes, they do a score for every episode, and every episode got like 80 to 90, whatever. But the last episode was rotten, so it was beneath a 60. I watched it and I thought it was a good episode. I thought it was at least as good as the other ones. I didn't have any issues with it.
The way I looked at it was like, and I watched it and I knew straight away that some people wouldn't like it because it was a little bit heavy on the speech. And I got the feeling that people wouldn't like it because it did have that political undercurrent. But the whole show had a political undercurrent. And I was
gonna say it's essentially been building to that.
Yeah,
really.
And also though I think people said this about WandaVision. People said the last episode of WandaVision was poor. Again, I didn't agree with it. I just think people don't. I'm not sure if people understand. Like, if you watch a movie, if you watch Endgame, if you watch any Marvel film, the last, you know, whether it be the third or whatever, is all action. It's all action, isn't it? That's the point of a comic book film. It's like you build up, and for the last third of it, or even the last half an hour or something, it's action. It's getting into like what the rest of it has been about, and then you're getting into the fighting and showing off your cool moves and showing off your suits and all the rest of it. And that to me was what this was, and that's what WandaVision was. It was always going to be a conclusion of the story, and in any comic book, the conclusion of a story always is generally a fight or a coming together of the two main characters or whatever it is. And I just thought this was the same, and I just thought, yes, I can understand why things could have been done a little bit better, and maybe like the Flag Smashers could have been given a little bit more time, or you know, or whatever. But you know, the show, this idea that shows need to build up and have this massive, unbelievable ending, I don't know where people get it from. I really don't, because that's not that's not what I see in when I'm watching comic book films.
I was going to say, I think we talked about it in our Discord this week, and I think one of the big reminding factors that we harped on is the fact that essentially Phase 4 of the MCU now is we're going back through and we're trying to reset everything. We're basically like, these are origin style, series, like developing characters that were essentially just side characters to, Captain America or, like from Age of Ultron and things like that. So you've now got like, you've developed a character and a backstory for Scarlet Witch. You've developed a character for like a new Captain America, but these stories need to be kind of self-contained. And I think some people like, and sometimes I do it myself. I can be guilty of it. Is like the expectations get away from you as far as like what this can do. Like, and I mean, we talked about like places like Emergency Awesome and New Rockstars. They're definitely guilty of it. You know what I mean? Almost like clickbait type stuff. Like, oh, we think Zola's going to be in it. We, Mephisto and all this stuff. And I think people are realizing now, like looking that we've completed 2 of these series, is that like, no, they're definitely going to be a lot more self-contained and it's just there to develop these characters.
Yeah, I think what's quite interesting about this show as well is just what having watched it is, I don't think you need to watch this show to when you get to Cap 4. I think now that we know there is going to be Cap 4 and he's going to be in it, I get the feeling that you could go straight from Endgame to Cap 4 because he gets the shield at the end of Cap 4 at the end of Endgame, and it's almost like it's implied that he will become the new Captain America anyway. In this, obviously, he deals with all the politics of it and all his own self doubts and being a black man in America and what it means and all the rest of it. So that's going into the nitty gritty. But if you didn't watch this, you could just skip it and go into Captain America 4. And okay, you might need to know stuff whether Sharon Carter's in it and things like that. She's in it, and obviously if John Walker's in it and little things like that, and Reyes is the new Falcon. If you need to know that stuff, you'd go for this. But I don't,
you could pick up the context pretty quickly.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that I don't. Therefore, this show doesn't have to. It doesn't really have to move the needle in terms of the Easter eggs it reveals. Like, we're used to watching Marvel films for 10, 12 years, where at the end of every movie we get an Easter egg, and we get stuff in the trailers that moves us on to the next one. I think this show give us all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? It didn't need any Easter eggs because it was all in the show. We got the new suit. We got Bucky getting rid of his demons. We got Sharon Carter being revealed as a potential bad guy. We got Zemo in prison. We got John Walker. All the Easter eggs are within the show. It's 6 episodes of essential world building, where sometimes that world building is left to the end credits of some films. So I just think some people need to lower their expectations and just enjoy what they're watching, rather than thinking there's going, like you just said, Aaron, thinking that there's going to be something extra, that the Thunderbolts are suddenly going to come out of it, or it's going to have this cameo from Captain America, or he's going to be on the moon or whatever. Just enjoy what they're giving you. This is amazing. 6 episodes.
We're gonna see the Watcher. He's on the moon.
Yeah, I think
very deep comic
kind of have become spoiled in a way with like all the great cameos over the years, to the point, like you said, they're almost expecting like the Watcher, or like almost like a Thanos type cameo at the end. But like, no, this is like its own grounded. It's like it's not in its own universe, but it's its own thing.
It's very self-contained.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. It's not. We're not going to see Hulk jump in or whatever. It's just focused on these characters, expands their world a little bit in the context of the Marvel universe. But yeah, like you said, it's an excellent show, and I'm glad they didn't just throw in a bunch of characters from the universe. They gave us some characters that I would like to see more out of. And they gave us that Baron Zemo for me, to see more out of him. And seeing him with a purple like hood was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and his old dance scene was also
but
pretty great.
but also we got, you mentioned there about being self-contained. Obviously, the Flag Smasher story was wrapped up. They all died. I mean, Carly, maybe. I mean, Falcon Cap announcer as being dead. He isn't a doctor. He can't make that decision. Because she's
no one ever really dies in comics.
Well, she's a super soldier, so I'm still hoping. And one of the reasons I'm hoping is because I just think the actors are such a really good actress that I think something could come out of that. Something more could come out of that character. But this Flag Smasher's obviously, getting killed by Zemo's butler, which I did see a really good thing of saying, like,
evil Alfred.
He is, yeah. He's like evil Batman, isn't he, Zemo? He's like, he's got all the money, he puts a mask on, and he's got a really bad butler, so he's like the evil Batman. If Batman isn't already evil.
Ooh, twist.
But so that their story is wrapped up, so it is about elevating those other characters, and obviously we got the John Walker stuff was really interesting, wasn't it? Because obviously, the week before last, we obviously seen him, go nuts. And then last week he got brought down to earth and we seen him, building his own shield at the end of it. But I think he came out of the show really well, because you sort of seen this guy he's had a complicated past. He's seen a best friend die at the hands of these super soldiers. He's now a super soldier himself. And then when obviously in this, he's now going to become US agent. I thought that was really handled really well. And he got his redemption because he had those little moments where it was like, should I seek revenge or should I help, my own team? And he chose the right options every time. And now he's got, even I really liked it when he was with Val, and Val was like, yeah, you now US agent. And he hugged his wife as in to say, we can pay the mortgage this week because I've got a job. And I just thought that was like, they were like really good little moments of like this, taking him away from being this like real, like, I thought he did a really good job of humanizing him. Like, he did break because he'd just seen his best friend killed. And when he went to see when he got when he was in the trial, he basically turned around and said, you created me, don't forget that. Like, I'm your product, and now you're just going to throw me away. So I thought his arc was really well done.
Interesting discussion I had with a friend of mine from New York City was, I was telling him the same thing. I was like, I really like how John Walker was handled. He wasn't just a straight up evil guy. We got to see his motivations, and he thought he was doing the right thing the whole time. And he was almost like not even like a bad guy in a way. And that was my opinion of it. It's still kind of my opinion. He was like, he's from Brooklyn. He's like, well, Austin, that's kind of a white person thing to look at it like that.
That's fair.
Because for me, he was like, and I was like, that's an interesting point. He kind of saw John Walker as kind of like the representation of police brutality with the character, I forget his name, Nano or something, the character who's killed off by John Walker.
Okay, yeah.
He kind of puts his hands up. He doesn't fight back or anything. So for him, he kind of saw John Walker as a representation of police brutality.
That's really interesting. And again, that's only, I mean, because of where, from where the writing came from and sort of the angles you're watching from, that's only stuff that you can actually get from like your own real life experiences or what you see on TV every day, and that is quite interesting. I mean, he was a dick and he did something really bad, and I suppose in a way he was never really punished for that. In a way, so that might be actually right. He was never quite punished. He did get a job out of it, so maybe that is the right way to look at it. Maybe I feel horrific now about my own views. I'm gonna have a cold shower. I feel really bad now about everything I've just said. But
see, that was my only thing about John Walker, is I feel like I could see where they wanted to go with him. They wanted to like put him in a bad light, like he made a bad decision, but then bring him back with his redemption arc. I just felt they took him a little too far. Like a lot of the build up of it, of that sinister side of his character, was like he was just losing it. So I thought they were gonna fully lean into the fact that like, and then he was just gonna like, it wasn't just like one redemption arc; it was a constant redemption arc. Like I can never fully get over what I did, you know what I mean, and everything I've become. I just little by little it's almost like an anti-hero, like a Venom.
Yeah,
like I don't make the greatest decisions, but I'm gonna try and do the best.
Yeah.
But that finale, kind of the way you painted him, like I felt like they were kind of trying to make you like him, and I for me it just was like, I think it's just too soon given we've just seen him smash a guy's
I think that was
chest
interesting
in,
though,
like...
because I think that's what they tried. They did try to make you do. They tried to subvert your own views, and it certainly worked on me. The idiot I am. No, they did. They tried to subvert your views really quickly on what he was by making him do a couple of nice things, and I suppose and it did. It obviously he had choices, and he chose to. He didn't necessarily do the right thing. He just chose to follow the path of the law that he was used to. And that's all it was, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't, whereas maybe Sam obviously was like going against that, because he obviously thought what Carly was doing was right. He was just doing it the wrong way. Whereas John Walker was just basically doing what he was told. And as long as what he was...
it's almost like a belief. One was a belief in justice, and the other one was a belief in, like, morality.
Yeah. So they are two different characters, and it'll be interesting to see where John Walker is taken. I just think that the only thing that I really do think they should have had another episode, and I'm not 100% sure how that would have worked. But obviously, we do now know officially that there was something cut out. We speculated on this, saying it was a possible pandemic storyline. And they've said there was something they've cut out. They would like to explore at a later date. It might even get its own comic to go into it. They did say it wasn't a pandemic, but I don't buy that. I think it was a pandemic story.
I was going to say the signs are everywhere. Really, if you look for them, it's not.
And I do feel like that would have added another episode, and that might have just give more. Because Carly, obviously, we knew all about, but she was still a little bit flimsy as a character in terms of what her full motivations were and stuff. Why exactly?
They could have done like what they did in WandaVision and given a visual on some of the backstory, like shown Carly when she was working for the Power Broker, like something they did. Like with WandaVision, we got to see Monica Rambeau when she came back from being dusted, and you get to see her like go into sword and all of that. All that build up, we could have done with some of that here as well. I think so. Austin, did you hear about these missing plot lines?
I have not heard about this, but it makes sense now, because I felt like they could have squeezed at least one more episode out, and if they want to add some filler, they could have done 2 episodes more.
Yeah, there are videos online talking about this. So apparently, the speculation was there was another plot revolving around vaccines, and obviously we've seen one of the first episodes. They go and hijack the truck is in the second episode with the vaccines in, and nothing more is said about it. And the speculation was there was a vaccine, and they've cut it out because of the pandemic. But there's also like visual representations of like definite dubbing of people's voices. Yeah. Sharon Carter is talking at one point, and what she's saying doesn't match her lips. There's bits where she's on the phone and she's got a cut lip and she's got a cut hand, and it's like they weren't in the scene before and they weren't in the scene after. There's bit where
I was going to say the flag smashers, like the leader, the person that brought them together, like dies of a virus,
and that's like apparently a well-known actress who was supposed to be used a lot more. There's just lots of indications as well of people talk. You don't notice it, but when you know it, you notice it. I was noticing it every episode. So there's a lot of instances of people talking off screen, and maybe what's happening.
Like you see the back of their heads.
Well, not even heads. You just hear voices, and you don't ever see who says them. And there's like bits where it's like B-roll footage and just voiceovers on top of it and all kinds. And and voices not matching as well. Like so, like someone will talk, and then they'll continue talking, but the pitch of their voice will be slightly different. So it was like recorded at a different time. And when you know it, you can see it so clear. You can understand it.
You can almost like hear it. Like doing the ADR in like the audio room.
So they've definitely cut this show up and cut something out of it. And I think what they've cut out is just lessened the show just so slightly. It's it's just because I think what's happened is it's not huge, but I think what's happened is they've had to cut bits together for it to make a little bit more sense. And when they've cut bits together, it's just loosened other people's. So I think we would have found out a lot more about the motivations of the Flag Smashers and would have been a little bit more sympathetic to them. And we don't necessarily get that now because the cause they're fighting for isn't really quite explained. So it is explained, but it's not really. It's like there's just Carly talking about it rather than seeing instances of it. So
I was going to say it adds a level of like empathy when you see that people are like suffering and like getting sick, and once there's a health element to it as well, and like them going out with like vaccines, because then they look like humanitarians, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would have added an extra episode, and I think we would have got a little bit more. But what about the revelation that Sharon is she the power broker? I mean, is she? I don't know. I don't think she ever fully confirmed it. Carly says you're the power broker, and she just sort of smiles at her, and then it
kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I didn't see the point of including it. That was probably the weakest storyline element for me. I guess it was a nice miss, but
I was going to say it felt weak at the time, but I think the more I've had time to kind of sit and stew on it, like I think kind of like Ped's alluding to there, like I don't think anything was ever locked in stone. Like they've kind of left it very open for a bigger plot reveal later down the line. Because like you said, she didn't really ever confirm it. She didn't say, yes, I am the power broker. And then you get the phone call, obviously, with the post credits. So I think there's still a lot like open.
Yeah. I mean,
as far as like where they could take it, really.
There's obviously one major train of thought, and that is she's a Skrull. Because with everything coming up.
Comments as well. Nice one, Wormy Spoons.
Yeah, that she's a Skrull. So that's definitely out there that she's a Skrull, that she could be a Skrull. But I think there's also another one that maybe who she's on the phone to is one of two people in similar positions, and one of them people is Val. That it's like she's there. It's like she's in like a branch of government that has limitations and needs the doors open to get equipment and the budget and all that kind of thing, because now there's more eyes because of what's happened after Endgame and stuff like that. There'll probably be a lot more
almost like a defunded shadow.
Yeah, because Tony Stark would have been picking up a lot of the slack of what happened with the Sokovian Accords and stopping people from putting in a lot of money for all that kind of thing. And now all that stuff has got to go through. You'd imagine it'd have to go through a lot of government committees and all that kind of nonsense, real life stuff. So there's that's one side of things. But I also think on the flip side, I think it could also be Nick Fury, because I get the feeling that Nick Fury be in similar boat. He's in space and he's got all that kind of thing and he's got the budget for that. But what about the boots on the ground? Does he have someone? Can he tell the government that there's you think about it like this, right? He's working with Skrulls. He's been working with Skrulls for 20 years, whatever, since Captain Marvel. Are the governments aware of that? I don't know, right? We don't know about that. But if they are, what if he turns around and goes, some of these Skrulls are actually trying to take over the Earth, trying to invade. And he's like, hang on, you work with these Skrulls every single day? So therefore, Fury would need boots on the ground and a team to track these Skrulls, but keep it away from the government as well. And I wonder whether that's where John Walker comes in as well, and Val comes in as well, and Fury and Sharon Carter, and they're actually all going to be revealed as being on the same team, and Zemo, oddly enough, as well. I've just wrote the film for you, so do what you want with it. But I don't think it's so easy. It's like she's the bad guy.
It's not so clear cut,
because I do think there's different parts of it, like because we are talking about a real government here. We've seen that with John Walker. They tried to send out a poster boy, and when he did something wrong, they pulled the rug from underneath him. Where it doesn't really work like that, because obviously bad things happen all the time, and the government has to be accountable for it. So I just wonder whether we know these people. We know we live in a real world, but there's a lot of shadowy people who've got real jobs. So why not?
Especially in the government,
especially in the CIA. So if you're listening.
Listen,
They're
stop
not listening. The only thing's listening is Alexa.
What's that, Ped? Groceries.
So have we got any thoughts on that? Could she be a good guy but doing bad things but for good reasons?
I kind of like the idea of a scroll potential idea for that. Because besides that, I kind of see it as kind of like weakening her character that was set up. I guess like Marvel fans not like they don't super care about what Sharon Carter's about at this point, but I don't know. I feel like some people might feel betrayed by what her deal is now. I guess this could be her revenge against United States for kicking her and other people out, Falcon, Bucky Barnes from Civil War. So I guess that would make sense. But besides that, I'm like, why is she doing this?
I just like.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because like you almost like feel banned by your government. I mean, and listen, like, let's face it, there's no retirement plan for CIA agents, is there?
No.
Like, really, the long-term plan is eventually you're gonna get banned. You're gonna get dropped by the government. Like, you don't just go off and live a happy life after. Oh, I was a CIA agent, and then,
I don't know any CIA agents, so I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. They might be all amazing. I just thought what was really interesting was when she was obviously getting her pardon, and he said, you know, you've done great work for us, and as your family have in the past, and said, you know, Agent Carter. I just thought that was really interesting because that was like the bit was like, is she gonna really portray her auntie who was this absolute icon, you know, helped start Shield and, you know, loved Cap and all that kind of thing? Is she really going to portray her just for a little grudge? I just didn't quite buy that.
Like a larger plot at play.
Don't get me wrong, I buy her as like a buyer, as you know, saying there about like someone who feels betrayed and has been left to rot in a really bad place and has had to fend for herself. I buy all that. I just feel like it's a long game and it's just going to be interesting. I just wonder where it's going to go. I wonder whether that is going to be a part of Secret Invasion or Armor Wars, or whether that will feed into Captain America 4. I just don't buy her character as a big enough potential bad guy to be in Captain America 4. I really don't.
No, and I think that's where some of the disappointment came from, right? And we were talking about expectations. Is people had this idea that it was just going to be a big reveal as who the power broker was, and everyone was going to go like, "Whoa!" But I think by what we've seen, we've still got more to come from it. And like you said, like I do like the idea that she's a Skrull, because if you think about like the logistics of the Skrull people, if there is a rogue faction running about on Earth, they've got no alien technology. I mean, they haven't been able to get about, so the only way they're going to get it is through either military contractors or getting into the government themselves. So maybe this is the first wave, that first contact,
maybe,
as far as like making their way.
Well, do you think, Austin, that maybe that Disney and Marvel are just being safe in terms of, you know, Aaron's just mentioned their big character, you know, dropping a Thunderbolt Ross in there as being the main guy or someone else. Do you think that maybe they are just playing safe as it's one of the first shows and saying, you know what, we're not sure how many people are going to watch this. We're not sure if we should be dropping a big character in this, and the reveal will be set up Captain America 4, you know, because we don't know. We don't know how many people, and maybe down the line, maybe you know, 2 or 3 down the line of these kind of shows, when Disney Plus have got more of a metric number of how many people are watching them and how many people are engaged, that they can go, right, we can start introducing big characters into these shows that will set up the film up. I'm just wondering, there's a little bit of that where they're just like, no, we'll keep that for the film, and for now we'll just deal with little small characters.
So I definitely think they're playing it a little bit safe, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for a couple reasons. One, I'm glad they're playing a little bit safe by not throwing these huge characters in, because at the end of the day, we want a show that's not just a continuation of more Marvel movies, something different. That's why I liked WandaVision, because it was something different. And yes, at the end of that show, there was a tie into Doctor Strange. You can totally skip that show if you've never seen it and just jump into Doctor Strange 2. We've talked about with this show. You can just jump past this. You would have to clear a couple things up, but it would be very easy to jump over for Falcon or Captain America 4 at that point. So I'm glad they're not throwing all these giant characters in, and I get that. Also, for the fact that I don't want this to be like the CW show universe. With that, if you want to get, and it's not the same thing at all. You can't compare the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the CW multiverse storyline. It's not even on the same level at all. But with that show, I stopped watching all those shows because it got to a point where you had to start watching 5 different shows.
I know.
Just to get what the hell is going on. I don't want that to be with Marvel, where you have to watch every show, every movie to get what's going on. You can skip things if you would like, if you're just a casual watcher.
Yeah, I mean, I completely disagree.
Never skip Marvel.
I completely disagree with that. You've got to watch all of it. You've got to watch all of it and know all the encyclopedia ins and outs of it. No, I think what's interesting there is, though, and, you know, Aaron, I don't know if you agree with me on this. I just wonder whether something like Sharon Carter will be kept sort of like that, though, where it's like she might be in Captain America 4, but I just wonder whether her story will skip straight to Armor Wars and Secret Invasion, rather than going. I mean, obviously Captain America and Bucky, whatever they're going to call him, because apparently he's not going to be called Winter Soldier anymore.
White Wolf.
Yeah, well, his story will be, that will go back into the movies, and I don't know whether there's going to be season 2. I just wonder whether someone like Sharon Carter will stay within like this new TV world. That'll be, and that's only something we're going to find out within time, isn't it? Whether these smaller characters are going to stay within this TV MCU. I know it's all the MCU, but I just wonder. And because I don't think we'll ever get a situation like you were talking about there, Austin, where there's all these different shows on at the same time. They're going to be stacked up one after the other. So I don't think we're ever going to get that situation. I do understand what you mean about skipping shows. But I just wonder, Aaron, whether you feel she will come back in the movie, or her storyline will continue in TV.
That's a really interesting question, because I guess it depends on the larger question of like what the involvement is with the group that she is, like the power broker. Like, where does that come back? Because I mean, you mentioned that Armor Wars. She was talking. I mean, essentially that with the post-credit scene, she was talking about technology. Perfect place to kind of tie, to put that in. Connections with the military, that's, I think, going to be a very War Machine centric show. Yeah. So again, that's, that military background. You can have that go into Secret Invasion, because again, that's all government infiltration, very CIA subterfuge. But again, you can link it to Captain America 4. So it's really hard to say where they could go, but it's exciting the fact that they do have opportunities to drop, and who's to say they can't, just feature it, in each of the different ones. Just, you've built up now the knowledge of the power broker of like what Sharon's doing, and Madripoor itself. So now, like, if there's a mention, like, I think there was some people who pointed out in Shang-Chi that it looks like they're in Madripoor. So who's to say that Sharon Carter couldn't be seen in Shang-Chi at one point? I don't think she will, but again, it leaves the door open now with some of this stuff and where they can go with it. So I honestly do think they're going to crisscross a little bit. It just depends which characters are ultimately going to do it.
I hope they do. I hope they do that, but I do feel like they might just want to build the world out a little bit first.
And like you said, I think that's what these Disney Plus shows are designed to do. Like, just expand out myth, lore, and like geography.
And I also do think that these shows will be used. Like we said this a few weeks ago. It's funny that when they started making these movies, like, people like Captain America and Bucky felt like huge characters, but now they feel like almost like Daredevil type characters. They feel like just on the ground, boots on the ground. They're not, because the world's gone to space and it's going to go into multiverses and all these kind of things. That these guys are just boots on the ground kind of guys now. And when the bad guy's Sharon Carter, it's not really it's not really world changing, is it? So I think it'll just be interesting to see where it goes.
And that's the thing as well. Like, they really have to take the time to develop the bad guys and the plot to what's going on. So I do feel like this show was a bit more of a slow burn and just setting the expectation for what's to come. Because now we've got an introduction to the Power Broker. Now we know there was a recreated version of the Super Soldier Serum. So kind of moving forward, we can start to build more up to that, to something that's a grander scale, like maybe something that's in Captain America 4. Because then again, for Marvel now, what a great marketing tool. Like, all you have to do is mention the Power Broker somewhere, and everyone's like, well, I've got to see it now. What if they reveal the Power Broker? It becomes this like draw. Yeah. No one wants to miss out on that secret reveal.
That's it. Austin, any more on this before we leave it?
No, not really. I enjoyed the show, and I'm glad we got to see, even though, like you said, we didn't get to see the full motivations of Flag Smashers. It was nice to see this small universe expand on characters to do different things. We got to see Bucky go to therapy.
Yeah.
We got to see Falcon. I don't know if it was the most interesting storyline. It was at least different and unique, dealing with his sister's problem of trying to save the family shrimp boat business. And kind of a weird storyline to see in a Marvel universe. And a small detail that I liked was John Walker's girlfriend or wife at the end of the season. A very small thing was that with these villains are made to just be like the alternate villains of these characters. Like Ant-Man had like anti-Ant-Man, and Hulk had anti-Hulk, just the opposite character. They're just these single guys. They're just evil. And if they do have a wife character, they're usually like they want to divorce them and they're scared of them or something. Here we got to see a man with like a wife who like loved to care about him and wanted to see the best for him. And we got to humanize with him more. And just little touches like that in the Falcon sister storyline, which is really excellent. So I definitely enjoyed this show for being different, even though, it could have been an episode longer.
Yeah,
I thought one of my favorites was obviously Sam. I mean, Sam was the big plot point, really, the driver, but the Isaiah Bradley storyline I thought was a really, really good touch.
Yeah, and it wrapped up really well as well with the stuff in the museum, and also felt like real as well, like because he went, obviously in the previous episodes he was like, no black man should represent that flag, and then when I think it was great because when you seen him flying around and stuff, when kids were like. Kids were seeing him, were like, that's amazing, and people were like saying, that's a brilliant representation. So that worked. I thought that worked really, really well. So and I also think the other strong thing from the show as well, even though it was just little glimpses, was just filling out Bucky's Wakanda storyline as well. I thought that was really, really good. It just gives you that little glimpse into what he's gone through in Wakanda, and it'd be nice to see him reappear in maybe Black Panther 2 and see where they go with that as well, because I do think he's part of that world as well, Black Panther, because he's obviously staying there as well. So and there's just like the little details from the show, so for that, so it can go lots of different places, and I was really satisfied with it. And I think the new Cap's really good, and Marvel have started embracing that. He's now the official Captain America, and that's a big move. It's a really big move for them. So we'll see how that pans.
Go heavy on that merch.
Yeah. Kids running around in that suit. That's what we want to see next.
It was a cool suit reveal as well.
It was, yeah. And just like the little things of like seeing the blue light, and we know that's like Wakanda technology, and seeing it under the water, and just little things like that were really, really good. There you go. We have spoken for a lot of time as normal. We just can't stop ourselves. Big thanks to Austin for joining us. Austin, where can everybody find you?
Sure. So they can find my podcast, Trash Talk Podcasts. We're on Instagram. We post a lot there. We're on Twitter, but I'm much better with Instagram. and our podcast is on most podcasts and platforms, not YouTube, but we're on like, Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, all of that. And yeah, definitely people should check us out. For But Why Though, which is the network this podcast is a part of, we have other guests from that network come on. We've had Into the Spider Cast come on to our podcast twice, and hopefully at some point soon, Aaron's will be able to jump on to talk about Invincible. So yeah, definitely check out Trash Talk Podcast.
It's like a big interconnecting universe of podcasts. There's like at the very end, there's like a little appearance by Aaron going, "Oh, I'll be here next week," and something that sets up the next one. Oh, you've got to be there. There you go. Big thanks to everyone for watching. If you've been watching on YouTube, listening. As always, if you want to come and join us on our Discord, there's amazing. There's people talking all the time. It goes off in the middle of the night and ruins my sleep patterns. But that's okay. Don't worry about it.
You've got a sleep pattern?
No, I've got a sleep pattern. It is exactly 4:15 in the morning right now. And I'm just here, just lively, just ready to go. Jump on our socials, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, to find out how to join our Discord. As I said, there's chats going on all the time about everything. There are spoiler tags, so no one gets anything ruined for them. Come and check that out. It is at Nerds Social Club on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. There's a lot to remember. And we'll be back next week. We will see you then.